Hey everyone, Joshua Jack with Matrix. I'm back with another guest to answer your questions. Today I have with me Jen Hall. Jen, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, thanks for having me.
Sure.
As you mentioned, my name is Jen Hall. I live in Las Vegas. I have been here for on and off about 10 years, which is the amount of time that I have been practicing Agile product management. I have a passion for product management and Agile. When I haven't been living in Vegas, I have been traveling the world. So I lived in India for 6 months, and then working with the Scrum team there to launch a product. And then I lived in Toronto for 2 years, launching a product and creating a new Scrum team there as well. So
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So oddly enough, I have a question from our webinar about product ownership. And really, it's one that we get quite often. And I thought it would be just great to throw it to you to see what your thoughts were on it. And that is, a lot of times our clients find that they struggle trying to get that product owner that's truly from the business side, right? For a ton of different reasons, either busyness or just concern that there may not be good time, whatever the reason is. So could you talk to me a little bit about your thoughts around that, as well as this idea that there's 100% commitment to this full-time job of product ownership? And I guess adding on to that, what are your thoughts about what we've seen as sort of a growth of this technical product owner kind of role that's coming in with the person from IT? So long question. What are your thoughts, Jen?
Sure. So I think, I've seen that quite a bit as well. Working in a couple of different industries and companies where working with the business, they really wanted to have a business product owner, but they just weren't able to make it happen for a variety of different reasons. And I think it's important to note that being a product owner is not easy. It can be a really difficult job, and it is a full-time job. So to expect the business to be able to give up a whole person and their whole entire 9-to-5 job sometimes just isn't, it's just not an option for them. So I think this is pretty common. And I've seen, with the notion of technical product owners, I think that means something different to everybody. I think, I would never consider myself a technical product owner, but if you were to ask someone in the business, they may think that I'm a technical product owner. But at the end of the day, no matter what type of product owner you are, one of your main goals is to maximize the value of the product.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're from the business, from IT, technical, design, doesn't matter. And the other part of your role is to keep the business engaged. So if they're not from the business, it's to keep the business engaged, to develop those relationships and the connections that you need to have. So some of the things that I've done in the past when I've worked with the business that I feel have been successful in keeping them engaged, because I think if they're not able to have that person, you have to keep them engaged.
Right.
Regardless if it's a technical product owner, whoever that product owner is, you have to keep the business engaged if you want to be successful. And you want them to be excited about what you're doing. Right. You want them to be engaged. You want them to be invested and have that buy-in. So one of the first things I always do, whether I'm just joining the company or it's a project or product kickoff, is I sit down with all of the main business key stakeholders and we do a meeting of rules of engagement. So has nothing really to do with the product and the features that we need and the problems we're trying to solve or why. We have plenty of opportunities to discuss that. I want to talk about how are we going to work together. So what I'll do is we'll talk about, this is the first step of, laying that groundwork and creating that relationship with them. So we're going to talk about communication. how are we going to communicate together? What's the best way that, what ways do you communicate best? You know, if I need to get something urgently, how can I get a hold of you? How do you respond best? And same with me, you know, how can you get a hold of me if you need something urgently? I'll educate them a little bit about the Agile community, the Agile practices, the ceremonies, specifically the ones that we'll want them to be engaged on, you know, demos and things like that. But I like to let them know about Agile as a whole. I've seen before, it was one of the best moments where I had a stakeholder, I walked in and he was telling another stakeholder how the sprints worked and just telling him all about just the different Agile things. And at the end, he looked at me and he had a smile on his face and he goes, "Is that right?" And I said, "Yes, that's right." And it was just an awesome moment, you know, because when they get excited about it, it just keeps them engaged. And then when we have a win as a team, it allows them to be excited and it just keeps them propelling and, you know, engaged. The next thing we're going to talk about is responsibilities and accountability. So I'm going to talk to them about what my responsibilities are and what they are not. You know, I think a lot of times product owners get mistaken to be many different things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to make sure that they know what my role is and how I'm going to hold myself accountable. And if they need to hold me accountable, you know, what they can do for that. And then I'm going to ask them, you know, what do you think in terms of this product and how we work together? What are your responsibilities? How can, you know, and what kind of accountability would you have for that?
It comes back to that whole idea of, we're not going to walk in and just roll this huge rock out of the way, right? There's going to be things that we have to do just to move incrementally, to move iteratively. We've been working in these, a lot of the companies we've worked with, they've been working in these traditional legacy ways for years and years and years. And this idea that we're just going to pop in and say, "Hey, change everything that you knew you were doing to this new thing." So I love how you said, I'm going to let them know what I think I'm supposed to be doing here. And then I'm going to ask them, what are you guys? Where is your level of engagement? And it opens up an opportunity to coach. It opens up an opportunity for us to really define. So without first putting, you know, back to the question, without first putting this label of, are you a product owner or a technical product owner? It's more like, let's build what the initial manifesto talked about, which is, let's just bring collaboration.
Yes.
Right. Let's just get the people that are asking for the work closer to the people that are doing the work. And let's break that first silo, right? Break through the first wall, not the fourth wall, the first wall.
Yes, absolutely. And this builds up trust.
Absolutely.
And the more trust you have, and then with that, another thing comes the transparency that you have to have.
Yeah.
That would be the other thing that I'd want to talk about during this time with them. And I think it's really easy for us to go into a meeting and say, "Hey, we're going to be transparent with each other."
Yeah.
Anybody can say that. But I like to go in and say, "Hey, when X, Y, and Z happens, this is how I'm going to make sure that you're aware of that."
Mm-hmm.
Does that work for you? Is there any other situations that you feel that you would need to be brought in on the loop, or, you know, and then ask them like the same on their end. How that, you know, what type of things that they need to keep transparent with us as far as, you know, so those are some of the things. And then also understanding that the people and the product, that's going to determine and drive what we need.
Yep.
So if we need to change something in our framework, in our process, or even in our roadmap, that's okay. But what we need to do is make sure that we come together and it's intentional.
Yep.
So laying down all of this is so important at the very beginning, and it doesn't matter what type of product owner you are.
That's right. Yeah, no, great stuff. Jen, thank you so much for your time. It was a great discussion, great insight. Thanks again for jumping on.
Thank you.
Yeah, and everyone out there, look for more answers to these questions, the webinar questions that are coming your way. We'll talk to you later.